This is the Oregon Online Science and Optional Social Science training modules for the 2018-19 school year, which is required for all district and school test coordinators, as well as Oregon Online Science and Social Science test administrators. The three topics we will be covering in this module include scheduling, test administration, and additional resources. The 2018-19 Oregon Science and Social Sciences statewide test window has a delayed start and will be open on February 6th through June 7th, 2019. School-level test windows must last for at least 4 calendar weeks. For more information about school-level test windows, please contact your school test coordinator. Each test opportunity is subject to a 45-day expiration period, which begins the moment the student first logs into the test. Students in grades 5, 8, and 11 will have one annual test opportunity. There will no longer be a retest opportunity. Students in grade 8 through 10, however, may target up to the grade 11 test and bank a passing score. Students in grade 5, 8, and 11 take the Oaks Science Assessment with the expectation that at least 95% of the students participate. The Social Science Assessment remains an optional test for grades 5, 8, and 11, and there is no participation requirement. These requirements are the same as they have been in previous years. The 2018-19 Oregon Science Assessment is an operational field test aligned to the 2014 Oregon Science Standards, NGSS. Student scores for the science tests will not be immediately available as they have been in past years, but are anticipated to be available early fall of 2019-20 following science assessment standard setting. As in the 2017-18 Oaks test, the 2018-19 Oregon Science Assessment will contain field test items aligned to the 2014 Oregon Science Standards. These items will have the same tools available to students as the operational items in the test, such as a calculator, periodic table, highlighter, etc. Before testing begins, please review Section 8.0 of the TAM for administration rules and recommendations, including the verbatim instructions. Ensure the students who will be taking the extended version of the assessment are identified and alternate plans are made for those students. All test settings, including embedded supports, need to be set before testing begins. Students will also need to have access to their SSID number and non-embedded accessibility supports. Practice tests are available now online at the Oaks portal for test administrators and students to become familiar with the test format and technology for each assessment. During testing, students may not access any material not explicitly identified on the content area specific accessibility supports list that is found in the new Oregon Accessibility Manual. For example, students may not access materials such as class notes, electronic translation devices, or cell phones during testing. When pausing a test to resume later, allow students to finish responding to the items presented on the screen before pausing. Please remember, if a student pauses for more than 20 minutes, they will not be able to return to the previously completed for review when they log back into the test. If a student pauses the science test for more than 20 minutes in a cluster or task item, they will be allowed to continue working through the task when they log back in. For more information on pause rules and test administration, consult the sections of the TAM referenced at the bottom of the slide or contact testing help. Scratch paper continues to be a non-embedded universal tool. However, please note that starting this year, scratch paper may only be retained and securely stored for the science test, so that students may access their notes for the science cluster tasks in progress. To retain such scratch paper, TAs must direct students to write their names on their scratch paper and then collect and inventory the scratch paper at the end of each test session. Retained scratch paper must be kept in a securely locked room or cabinet that can only be opened by an authorized staff. Upon the completion of the test, paper must be securely destroyed. The science assessment sample tests are available on oaksportal.org. The sample tests include example questions for science and social science assessments at each grade level. These also allow test administrators and students to try out accessibility supports. In addition to the practice tests, the Oaks portal also includes links to the calculator students will encounter in the science assessment. Science sample tests will be available for each grade level assessed. Sample tests will have items that demonstrate the cluster arrangement of questions found in some of the test items. These clusters and items were created to assess the three-dimensionality of the 2014 Oregon Science Standards and contain simulations, video, and other media. Sample test items provide examples of the types of test items students will see on the 2018-19 Oregon Science Test and should be used to help students become more familiar with the format of the test. It is very important that students have time to practice with these new test items. Before testing begins, point out to students that the new groupings of questions will look different in appearance. There will be more information for students to process on a single screen and with new simulation types. It is important for students to become familiar with the technical aspects of these new simulation types. Students should have some experience and comfort with manipulating the simulations prior to sitting down and taking the live assessment. Sample tests should not be used to evaluate student academic progress or performance. A training test for new science test items will also be updated this fall for grades 5, 8, and 11. Training test items provide examples of types of items students will see in the 2018-19 Oregon Science Test. This training test will be updated in November 2018 to include both clustered task and independent response item examples and will replace the previous practice test located on Oaks portal. Finally, these links to resources can be found on our School Test Coordinator page at pps.net.